What is up, guys? Happy Halloween. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to be getting into my power rankings. And before we get into this, my NBA power rankings, that is, before we get into this, I just want to thank you all. My last NBA power rankings got up to like 290 views or whatever, which was a lot more than I was expecting. Not expecting as much for this one, but I thank you guys for watching. And let's get into this one. Starting out with the number 30 team. Um, Dropping down a spot now, the worst team in the league, in my opinion, is going to be the Houston Rockets. Yeah, Houston, they're 1-6 right now. Um, didn't win a game since the last one, 0-3. In the last three games. So yeah, Houston they got a lot of young talent around them, like I've been saying, but I just Houston, they just have these struggles that they're just not a very experienced team. I don't think they're well coached really at all, and that really leads them to be not a great team. So that's my opinion on Houston right now. Not a great start to the year. Let's move on to number 29, a very similar team here, Orlando Magic. I could basically say all the same things. I do think the Magic have a little bit more talent around them, though. That's why I think they are the better team than Houston. But yeah, same problems. I don't think they're a very well coached team. Not good defense. They got a lot of young talent, but they just not a lot of experience there. And it's just not enough to win games. So that's why they're going to drop down a spot to number 29. Two very similar teams and two just not great teams, honestly. Let's move on to number 28. We're going to have the Indiana Pacers going to be jumping up two spots at 3-4. Got two wins this week, only lost a game, went 2-1 since last time. So that's big for Indy. Indiana needed to get those wins, and now they're a team that you could start to rely on more over some of these teams. Now, the Magic Rockets could have a better year. I do think they have more talent, but the Pacers just are all around better. They have a better defensive focus. They're a better coached team. And they just find ways to win. Unlike these Magic and Rockets teams, are going to be a little bit more scrappy, a little bit more competitive. And right now, I do think they are a better basketball team than the Magic or the Rockets. So that's really what separates them, and that's why I think the Pacers jump up two spots. Clearly, the talent is limited on this team, though. Just not a lot of talent there, and that's why they're number 28. Let's move on to number 27. We're going to have the Oklahoma City Thunder, staying at the same spot at 3-3. The Thunder, yeah, I was harping on them last week for not winning a game. Now they go 3-0. It was tempting to bring them up into the in the hunt tier, but not really. I mean, the Thunder, yeah, they were finally able to figure out some of these concerns. It wasn't the greatest schedule that they played. Well, actually, it was a pretty darn good schedule. They played the Clippers and the Mavericks, so those were two big wins. It just shows how competitive this Thunder team could be at times. But I'm still not gonna go all in on the Thunder and move them up again into the in the hunt tier. I'm gonna keep them down in this bad tier because talent is still lacking with this team. They're still in a rebuild. All right, so that is the bad tier. Let's go on to the in the hunt tier. Starting out with the number 26 team, we're going to have the Sacramento Kings at 1-4. Staying at the same spot from last week. The Kings, interesting week. They've won a game. Their first game, so that's good for them at least. They went 1-1. So, yeah, really, in my opinion, does it change in the Kings? It's just the same old Kings, like... This team has the talent, but they just can never piece it together to be a playoff team, and I don't think that's going to change. Number 25, we're going to have the Detroit Pistons, going to be dropping down a spot at 2-3. Or 2-5, sorry. Yeah, Detroit just really drop it down because of another team that's just played better. Didn't have a good week, but Bojan Bogdanovic, the accusation of him has been big for this Piston team. He is really scoring. He got a contract extension a few days back. So you love to see that if you are if you're the Pistons, but still 1-3 start. They still have some struggles on the defensive side of the ball. And yeah, they're still a young team, and I do think that they're going to be able to get some things going, but still need to improve. Let's move on to number 24. We're going to have the Washington Wizards going to be dropping down a spot. Just really a lot of these teams that are dropping down just because of another team jumping ahead of them. The Wizards, 3-3. Kristaps Porzingis has been good for them, and Bradley Beal, obviously the contract extension, but really I think it was time for the Wizards to rebuild, but they are going in on this season, and they've been 3-3 through the first 2 weeks, so I guess you're happy about that if you're a Wizards fan. I'm not really sure what to think about the Wizards. They're going to be a very competitive team, but I still think it was not the right move this offseason to go with Bradley Beal. So, yeah, the Wizards, we're going to have to see how they look over the next few weeks. Just have been a mediocre team through the first two. Moving on to number 23, we're going to have the New York Knicks, a very similar team here to the Wizards. Going to be dropping down a spot. Yeah, the Knicks, Jalen Brunson has played pretty good, I would say, for them so far. But the Knicks, exactly what I thought that they would be coming into the year, just a mediocre team. I mean, Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson, they're going to be the leading scorers, but they don't really have a superstar down there in New York. They just have a solid team. I do think that they're well coached. But it's the Knicks. Like, you can't really expect them to be a top tier team year in and year out. And they've proven it through the first 2 weeks of the year. And really my opinion hasn't changed on them. All right, let's move on to number 22. We're going to have the Charlotte Hornets dropping down 3 spots. Not because they had a bad week, but a lot of teams are jumping ahead them here. But they are still in the play-in tournament here. It's tight between the Knicks, the Wizards, and the Hornets. I do think the Hornets are the better team over the group. They're just a more competitive team overall. Gordon Hayward's obviously been solid for them. Ball, I do think. Wait, I need to check this real quick. LaMelo Ball should be back soon, it looks like, so that's good for the Hornets. So yeah, once Ball's back, that's really the difference here. The Hornets have a pretty good star player down there that they can trust in Ball. He's been very solid to start out his career. Knicks don't. The Wizards, they have Beal, but Beal is mainly just a scoring option. He doesn't really elevate the team. So I think LaMelo Ball, that's really the difference here. The Hornets, I do think, are the better team, but it is very tight between these 3 teams. All of them are 3-3. Let's move on to number 21. We're going to have the Los Angeles Lakers taking the biggest dip out of any of these teams this week, dropping down 6 spots. 1-5. They got their first win, but man, LeBron James just has to carry this team game in and game out, and it's just not enough. And you can't really feel bad for James. He's the one that tried to put together this team, and nobody wants Russell Westbrook. There's no way he gets traded. The Lakers are just going to have to deal with him. They're going to have to play to his strengths because they really aren't. Westbrook had a good game on their last game, but yeah, I mean, I think it's more time to start talking about Anthony Davis's struggles than Westbrook's, because Anthony Davis has not been good at all ever since their championship season. I mean, he's averaging a decent amount of points, but he's really struggling on the defense side of the ball and just is not playing good basketball. So we're going to have to see if Anthony Davis can pick things up for the Lakers. He is staying healthy, though, so that's a good sign. But it's a struggle for LA right now. It is a struggle at 1-5. Let's move on to number 20. We're going to have the San Antonio Spurs jumping up 5 spots, just showing how good of a coach Greg Popovich actually is. This team looked horrible to start out the year, like talent wise. And this team is 5-2. It is crazy. Their only loss of the year came to their only two losses of the year came to the Hornets and the Timberwolves. So, wow. You love to see it if you're a Spurs fan. Just clearly shown why Greg Popovich is the best coach in the league and why he's maybe is the best coach, one of the best like in all of sports. It's just crazy how good of a coach he is, and he just leads his team to victories because this team does not really have any talent, and this team's 5-2. So I don't even know what to say. Like how big that is for the Spurs. It's going to be rough when they lose him, man, because he is such a good coach. But yeah, I do like the Spurs a lot with their coaching. They're just a very competitive team, and that's why they're 5-2 to start of the year. All right, let's move on to the play-in tournament here. We're done with the in the hunt here. We obviously have the Hornets in there, but no more in the hunt teams. Let's move on to the play-in tournament. Starting out with the number 19 team, the surprising team, the Utah Jazz, also a 5-2 start to the year. Very impressive start for the Utah Jazz. Their schedule has not been easy either. They've had a lot of tough opponents, and they're getting the job done against some of these teams. The accusation of Will Hardy, their new coach, I think is really good for the Jazz. He's a good coach. And this team's very competitive. Obviously, a lot of people thought this team was going to tank for a high draft pick, and they're not. They are competing through the first 2 weeks, and they're a playoff team, a play-in tournament team, in my opinion, at the moment. So, hats off to the Utah Jazz. Very solid start for them, and they're going to be 19, jumping up 2 spots. Let's move on to number 18. We're going to have the Toronto Raptors, staying at the same spot. My opinion doesn't really change about the Raptors. Go 1-1 this week. Just a very solid, well-coached basketball team. Definitely one of the 10 best teams in the Eastern Conference, and that's just really how I see the Raptors. Just a solid basketball team. Their defense is good. They got Siakam. They got these solid players, Van Vliet, that can score for them, but no really star players, just good defense, good offense. Good coaching, all of the above for the Raptors, but just they're not really great at anything, but they're good at a lot of things. That's how I would explain the Raptors. All right, let's move on to number 17. We're going to have the Trailblazers jumping up 3 spots. 5-1 start. Have been very impressed with the Blazers through the first 2 weeks of play. Damian Lillard clearly showing that he is the guy for the Blazers, clearly carrying this basketball team. They got a lot of pieces around them, though, but Lillard is the star player for them, and they're winning games, and that's really all that matters for the Blazers. Definitely probably underestimated Lillard's abilities to start of the year, but yeah, I'm not going to jump him up too much. That's just week 2, so week 3. So you got to be patient with the Trailblazers. You got to take into account their success, but you got to stay patient with them. And I think the Blazers, we're going to have to see if teams start to figure them out a bit more. But yeah, a big surprise for the Blazers to start of the year, for me at least. Let's move on to number 16. We're going to have the New Orleans Pelicans jumping up a spot, mainly due to the Lakers dropping down. I couldn't find them, but there they are. New Orleans. Zion Williamson, been very solid for this team. Ingram comes back, big player for them. And the Pelicans, my opinion, doesn't really change on them. They're a good team. And definitely a play-in tournament team in the Western Conference. CJ McCollum, you got to give hats off to him. He's played a very solid start to the year. Their defense is pretty solid, and they're just a good team. I really don't really know what else to say about the Pelicans. They lack star power like a lot of these teams. But this team, is up there. They're getting there to maybe being a potential playoff team. Or even contender. This team could be scary if they can piece some things together. Let's move on to number 15. We're going to have the Chicago Bulls jumping up a spot. The Bulls at 3-4. Little bit of a disappointing start. I was expecting them to be a little bit better than this, but clearly the star power is still there in Chicago. They got a lot of good players in Vucevic and Levine and DeRozan, and all of those players are solid for them. They just gotta, I think, a little bit piece together a lot more things. They had a lot more success last season to start of the year, so we're gonna have to see. But the Bulls, I'm still not worried about them. They got a lot of good talent down there, and I think that they're going to be a very good team moving forward. So that's Chicago. Let's move on to number 14. Staying at the same spot, the Atlanta Hawks, 4-2. Again, I like a lot of these teams. My opinion doesn't really change on them. Trae Young, very solid player for the Hawks. Very good player, that is. DeJounte Murray, he has had a very solid start for the Hawks, but still this team doesn't really have a good defense in Atlanta. That's a little bit of a struggle there. A lot of offense, but not a lot of defense. But just a very good team, and if they get hot, it is very hard to slow them down, and that's really the Hawks at 4-2 to start of the year. So let's go on to the number 13 team. We're going to have these Philadelphia 76ers in the playoff tier, dropping down a spot just because of another team jumping ahead them. But they were able to get some things going this week, went 2-1 to kind of close the gap a little bit more. But yeah, the 76ers, clearly the 76ers rebuild went their way, and they got Joel Embiid, they got James Harden. But I really just don't trust the 76ers, honestly. I feel like this team is just destined every year to disappoint. And it's proven over the past, 4-ish years? It's just a disappointing team, in my opinion, honestly, for Philadelphia. And things are looking up in Philly, other than the 76ers with the Eagles and the Phillies. But I would say 76ers are a little bit on the lower side of things down there in Philadelphia. So let's move on to number 12. We're going to have the Brooklyn Nets, dropping down 4 spots at 105. Very disappointing. My concerns coming into this team this year was if Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and I guess you can throw in Ben Simmons in that conversation, can mesh together. And it's been disappointing for the Nets. You would expect more out of this team. This team has so much talent. They've went to go get Harden. Harden, but now he's gone. They went out to get Irving and Durant, and it has not worked out in Brooklyn through these past few years. They got to really get some things together because really this hurts KD. KD's legacy. He was supposed to kind of win it. This is his chance to show that he can win a championship when he is the main guy. Clearly, no disrespect to Kyrie Irving, but he is not the main guy. KD is, and he's got to prove that he can lead his team because it's just not a good look when he says, I want to be traded to this team. I want to be traded to the Suns, who have a superstar roster already. You got to man up and you got to be the leader that you're supposed to be for Brooklyn. And I think he still can be, but it's been a disappointing start to the year, to say the least, for Brooklyn. Let's move on to number 11. We're going to have the Dallas Mavericks. Going to be dropping down a spot at 3-3. My concerns with the Mavericks have came into fruition to start of the year. This team is led by Luka Doncic, but they really don't have a lot of talent elsewhere. And there's only so much Luka Doncic can carry this team. And it's proven. They obviously lost Jalen Brunson and Porzingis, and this is just not as good of a basketball team as last year. And it shows. They're 3-3 to start out the year. There's still plenty of time to be played, but my concerns and my worries why this team is a contender in my eyes have come to fruition. But Luka Doncic is a very good player, and don't get me wrong, they still have some talent around him. This is a very well coached basketball team as well. You got to mention that. And this team uses their play to their strengths very well. That's why they're a very good basketball team, but just not enough, I think, for me to put them in a contender tier. All right, so let's wrap up the playoff tier with the number 10 team. We got the Timberwolves jumping up 3 spots, 4-3. Clearly, Rudy Gobert has done a big job for the Timberwolves to start out the year. Rudy Gobert averages 14.7 rebounds per game. He's getting points. But obviously, clearly the main thing, Timberwolves are a much better defensive team with Rudy Gobert. Very underrated player, let's be honest, for Rudy. And the Timberwolves are benefiting from that. Karl Anthony Towns is doing his things. Anthony Edwards is doing his thing. D'Angelo Russell's doing his thing. This whole team, solid team. Now, obviously, I think this team's missing Patrick Beverley a bit. He was a big player for them last year on the defensive side of the ball. If he was there, this team could be a very scary basketball team. But I do think this team is still just a very big team, like literally a big team. And it's a good team. They've proven it through the first 3 weeks. All right, so let's go into the contender tier. Starting with the number 9 team, we're going to have the Miami Heat at 2-5, dropping down 2 spots. Disappointing start, to say the least, for Jimmy Butler's squad down there in Miami. This team, we've seen it over the past few years, has had a lot of firepower. Overall, Tyler Hero has had a good season so far. Bam Adebayo got to be better for this team though in general, because the defensive end of the side of the basketball has not been good for Miami really at all. They really got to be better at that. I do think this Miami Heat team is still a contender. Obviously, they've proven it over the past 2 years or 3 years, and they just got to be better. Let's be honest, the Miami Heat has got to be better because we all know that they can be. All right, number 8, we're going to have the Cleveland Cavaliers jumping up 3 spots. Donovan Mitchell has been playing out of his mind for Cleveland through the first 6 games of the season. Wow. If you're a Cavs fan, you got to be excited for him. He is averaging 32.2 points per game, 7 assists. Just been a very good player. And then obviously you have Evan Mobley down there. Garland's obviously struggled for this team, but Donovan Mitchell definitely has made up for it. He's the leader of this team. He was kind of underrated, honestly, after this season. A lot of people weren't really calling him superstar because he had a bad year with the Jazz last season, for him at least, even though he still had a good year. But the Cavaliers still, Donovan Mitchell, big accusation for them, and it is really showing for them. Let's move on to number 7. Don't know where that came from. The Denver Nuggets jumping up 2 spots here. 4-3, mainly due to the Heat and the Nets dropping down. Jokic, Jamal Murray. It's just the Nuggets team we know them to be. They've had some frustrating losses to start of the year, but you're going to have those. The MVP, always really good. Teams are getting a little bit more towards Jokic. I know he's very good, but teams are going to be able to find his weaknesses a little bit more through the first 2 weeks. But Jamal Murray coming back's been big for the Nuggets. He's been a solid piece for them. He's still recovering a little bit, but I think he's going to be good for them. And then obviously Aaron Gordon, good player, and the Nuggets, well-coached basketball team. Just a very great team all around. All right, let's move on to number 6. We're going to have the LA Clippers drop it down 4 spots, 2-4. Kawhi Leonard obviously struggles this past week for this team. Coming back, he has been out for a very long time, so you can't really blame him. But yeah, he's got to be better. The I don't even know why I totally forgot his name. The other superstar player, I've totally forgot his name right now. I gotta find this out. But the other one for the Clippers, let me just search this up. I gotta find it. Paul George. I do not know why I could not find that out. But yeah, Paul George has been the leader of this team because you see Kawhi Leonard, he is only averaging 12 points per game. Then very disappointing for Leonard. He's obviously a big defender out there. That is one of his best strong suits of his game, but disappointing start to the year for the Clippers, to say the least. But I guess it was expected. He hasn't played for a long time. It's going to take some time for him to get back to his game. Let's move on to number 5. We're going to have the Phoenix Suns jumping up a spot. Phoenix with Devin Booker and Chris Paul. Very good start to the year, 5-1. Just really the Phoenix Suns. It's going to be about the playoffs again for this team. Can this team execute in the playoffs? But right now we're in week 3, so you don't have to worry about that. This team's just winning a lot of good games and really have been the same team the past 2 years that they have been. All right, let's move on to number 4. We're going to have the Memphis Grizzlies. Going to be jumping up a spot as well. 4-2. Mainly just jumping up because of the Clippers' struggles, but the Grizzlies clearly a very good team here. Ja Morant, this team very dangerous. This team's going to be a very good team for a long time to come. Ja Morant's averaging 32 points per game. Brooks is a solid player. Bane has been a surprising piece for them. This team's just been very solid through the first few weeks. Steven Adams has had a pretty good impact on this team. And this Grizzlies team is just very, very, very dangerous. I'm telling you, this team is a dark horse team to win the championship. I think a lot of people are counting them out. Let's move on to number 3. We're going to have the Boston Celtics, the defending East champions, at 4-2. I believe that's what their record is right now. Yeah. Boston, very good defensive team. That's the thing. But you can kind of see that this team missing out on their coach after those crazy stuff happens. Missing out on him. It's just not as good of a coach team as last year, and that's showing on the court. But it's still Jason Tatum. They got Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and all of these weapons for them that they can use. And they're just a very great team. And I think this team is going to be could be a championship team again, as that's what this contender tier means. But yeah, let's move on to number 2. We're going to have the Golden State Warriors dropping down a spot at 3-4. Golden State. Yeah, a little bit of a frustrating past few games for Golden State. That is, yeah, it's been frustrating for Golden State, but they are still the defending champs. Steph Curry got to get some things going. But yeah, they started out the year very good, and then they went 1-3. So Warriors got to be better than that. They got to figure out some things especially on that defense side of the ball. Draymond Green hasn't been great to start out the year. Thompson need to be better, but I'm still not worried about the Warriors. They're still one of the best teams in the league. We're gonna have to see if they can get things going. All right, and then number 1, we're gonna have the Milwaukee Bucks, clearly the best team in my opinion, jumping up 2 spots. The only undefeated team remaining. Giannis Antetokounmpo, obviously, probably the best player in the league. I can safely say at this point. And this Bucks team is just so freaking good, and it's really hard to stop them. So anyway, guys, thank you all for watching this video today. Hopefully you all enjoyed the content. Comment down below your power rankings. Hopefully you all have a happy Halloween. And anyway, peace out.